Tonight, the bombshell court testimony as Sean Combs' former girlfriend accuses him of abusive and explicit acts. Cassie Ventura, star witness in the case against the music mogul, accused Diddy of years of sexual and physical abuse in graphic detail, including a now infamous assault at a hotel. She laid out in graphic detail being forced to participate in, quote, freak-off parties, one she said lasted 4 days. Diddy pleading not guilty to all 5 counts. President Trump on the world stage in Saudi Arabia, meeting with controversial ally, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. His trip overshadowed by ethical questions over his plans to accept a 747 from the Qatari royal family, all as the president announces billions in development deals. The Menendez brothers appearing via video in court in their odyssey to be freed from prison. The flooding emergency in western Maryland, a school evacuated. Kim Kardashian speaking out in court, saying she thought she was going to die when robbers stole $10 million in jewels from her. And Hoop Dreams, the WNBA coach making history, her inspiring mission after going from a walk-on to the big boss.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. He has been one of the most powerful figures in entertainment, rapper, record producer Sean Diddy Combs. Tonight, his music empire and his very freedom potentially at stake as his trial on federal sex trafficking charges turns to what the prosecution calls its star witness, Combs' former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, getting to the heart of the case, describing Combs as a scary and violent person who controlled her appearance and career. Her graphic testimony painting a lurid picture of sexual and physical abuse, fueled by drugs. We want to warn you, some of the details are disturbing. Chloe Malas was in the courtroom.
8 months pregnant Cassie Ventura on the stand today, describing a complicated and abusive relationship with Sean Diddy Combs that began when she was 21. He controlled a lot of my life, Ventura said, calling Combs a scary person. Ventura testifying that they had violent arguments where he would mash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me. She said a few months into their relationship, Combs suggested hiring an escort to have sex with her while he watched. My stomach churned, Ventura said. I was confused, nervous, but also loved him very much and wanted to make him happy. Combs called these choreographed sexual encounters freak-offs. Ventura today detailing how she and Combs would stay awake for days, taking drugs and having sex with strangers. She said at one point they happened weekly. The freak-offs became a job and there was no space to do anything else, she said. Ventura said she was often the one who hired the escorts, who were paid up to $6,000. She described how Combs' security and staff were always around, bringing supplies to freak-offs, including baby oil and drugs. Ventura testified that the freak-offs made her feel disgusting and humiliated, but she says she feared Combs would become violent if she said no. His eyes would go black, she said, and the version I knew of him was no longer there. Prosecutors showing the jury this video obtained by CNN showing Combs beating Ventura in the hallway of a hotel after she says she tried to leave a freak off. When asked how many times he'd thrown her like that, Ventura said too many to count.
She has to give us the circumstances. Who directed these sex acts to happen? You know, how did she feel when they were happening? Did she want them to occur? Were they against her will? Those are all the elements that the prosecutors are going to have to prove to make their case.
Combs is charged with 5 counts, including sex trafficking and racketeering. Lawyers for the music mogul acknowledge he's engaged in violent behavior and drug use, but say the acts at the center of this case were all consensual. Several of Combs' family members were again in court today, including his mother. At one point, Combs gesturing towards them with his hands shaped as a heart.
And Chloe, you were in the courtroom today. What were Ventura and Combs' demeanor?
Lester, Combs was visibly nervous. At one point during Cassie's testimony, he re-entered the courtroom and he looked over at his family and his eyes widened and he let out a visible sigh. And as for Ventura, she was very emotional. She was crying on the stand when reminiscing about the relationship, and she's set to testify again tomorrow. Lester?
Chloe Malas tonight. Thank you. Now to President Trump's high-stakes trip to the Middle East, touting billions of dollars of new investment in the U.S. by Saudi Arabia, but facing growing criticism for accepting Qatar's offer of a new Air Force One jet. Garrett Hake is in Saudi Arabia with more tonight.
President Trump tonight the guest of honor at a lavish Saudi Arabian state dinner, capping off a day of spectacle and statecraft. Saudi fighter jets escorting Air Force One into Riyadh, where the president was met by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The motorcade escorted by an honor guard on horseback. The president touting new deals, with the Saudis agreeing to buy $142 billion of American military equipment, part of what the White House says is a $600 billion investment in the U.S.
You're going to be creating tremendous numbers of jobs in the United States.
The president noting a better-than-expected inflation report, now down to 2.3% compared to a year ago, the smallest increase in 4 years, and bringing with him a host of top American business executives, including Elon Musk and the CEOs of Amazon, Coca-Cola, and Nvidia, and announcing he'll lift sanctions on Syria's new government at the urging of the Saudi Crown Prince.
I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness. Oh, what I do for the Crown Prince.
But the president facing new Republican criticism after accepting an offer of a $400 million Boeing plane from the Qatari government, gifted to the Pentagon to use as a temporary Air Force One, then to be transferred to his presidential library. Though the White House and Qatar say the plan is not yet final.
The plane poses significant espionage and surveillance problems, but I certainly have concerns.
Nikki Haley posting it, quote, implies the president and the U.S. can be bought. If this were Biden, we would be furious. And the Trump Organization, now run by the president's sons, has recently struck development deals in each nation he's visiting, after swearing off foreign deal-making during his first term.
Trump Tower, Jeddah. Coming soon.
This trip also comes a day after a diplomatic win for the president, securing the release of Idan Alexander, the last living American hostage held by Hamas. Idan holding up a sign saying, "Thank you, President Trump." His parents speaking today.
It is wonderful to have Idan home. Really a gift from God to watch him hug Yael, his brother, and his sister, knowing that his suffering is over.
The president also today insisting he wants to strike a nuclear deal with Saudi rival Iran, but warned the time to reach an agreement is running out. Lester?
Garrett, thank you. Meanwhile, there are damaging new details tonight about former President Biden. A new book alleges serious concerns about his mental acuity. Gabe Gutierrez joins us now, and Gabe, President Biden's team is now responding to this reporting.
That's right, Lester. According to an excerpt from the new book obtained by NBC News, it was, quote, obvious to many at a fundraiser last summer that then President Biden did not know who George Clooney was, even though they were longtime acquaintances, and Clooney is one of the most famous men in the world. The book, by journalists Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson, goes on to say former President Obama, who was also at the event, had to hop in and finish sentences for Biden during photo ops. In separate excerpts, the authors write that Biden would forget the names of longtime aides and that there were internal discussions about putting the president in a wheelchair in a second term. At the time, the White House publicly defended the president's fitness for office. A Biden spokesperson now says the authors did not fact-check the book with them, adding, "We continue to await anything that shows where Joe Biden had to make a presidential decision or where national security was threatened or where he was unable to do his job. He was a very effective president." Lester?
Gabe, thank you. We're following some breaking news right now. Let's get this late update.
Lester, good evening. We have breaking news here from Van Nuys, California, where the Menendez brothers have been resentenced to 50 years to life in prison, ultimately making them eligible for parole. It was an astonishing moment in court, emotional and gripping at times when both brothers got to speak to the judge and to their families. Lyle went first, saying, "I killed my mom and dad. I do not blame my parents." He got emotional at times. He says, "Even after I killed my father, I still had his voice in my head." And he went on to say, "I promise to never use violence to solve a problem again." Eric went on to say that he has had profound sorrow to everyone in his family. He says, my actions were cruel and cowardly. Both brothers saying that there was no excuse for these murders and that they take full accountability. Now, the judge acknowledged that these crimes were horrible, but he also noted that he was just as shocked by the letters of support from prison officials, including one lieutenant who in 25 years has never written a letter of support for any inmate. The judge's decision now leaves the next fateful phase in their resentencing in the hands of the parole board, who will ultimately decide if they should be paroled. And then that needs to go to Governor Gavin Newsom, who will ultimately sign off on whether Eric and Lyle Menendez, who were convicted for killing their parents in that horrific shotgun murder back in 1989, are now eligible for parole. Again, just an extraordinary last half hour of this hearing. We thought it would go on till tomorrow, but the judge kept us a little bit longer past the closing time for court. And at this moment, Lyle and Eric Menendez are one step closer to their freedom. Lester?
Now to an NBC News Digital documentary investigation. Antonia Hilton reports on the disturbing allegations from women coming forward decades after they say their pastor repeatedly sexually abused them.
When Carrie Jackson was growing up in Oklahoma,
this is still the children's wing.
Tulsa's Eastland Assembly of God Church was where she found friends and a pastor she adored.
Literally has not changed one iota.
Now it's a reminder of the sexual abuse she says she experienced as a child, and how for 40 years, nobody has held the man she says abused her, Pastor Joe Campbell, accountable.
Oh my God. Oh, remember that hair. No.
NBC News spent the last 6 months following this group Carrie helped bring together. Women who all have allegations against Joe Campbell.
That's Joe.
Father, in the name of Jesus.
Campbell has spent his life preaching. In Tulsa, he and his wife Becky became leaders of a popular children's ministry in the 80s.
There's that picture of Joe.
Carrie alleges Campbell would show her pornography.
What did he say?
They were questions like about sex, which I, of course, wouldn't understand.
She says the abuse escalated quickly.
He molested and raped me from the time I was 9 until I was 12.
When she was 15, Carrie's friend reported the alleged abuse to the church's head pastor, which led to a hearing at an Assemblies of God regional office in Missouri.
And I would just be like a deer in the headlights. I didn't even know what to say.
The National Office for the Assemblies of God Church told NBC News it was not protocol for reported victims to be encouraged to bring their allegations in the presence of the accused, nor is it the process now. But Carrie says Campbell was in the room and the church allowed him to continue preaching. Until he was accused again. The Campbells took Phaedra Creed into their Versailles, Missouri home in 1988 when she was 14.
I told him everything about my home life, never having a father, not having my mother on a regular daily basis.
She says 1 month into living there, Campbell began to sexually abuse her. Eventually, Phaedra told the wife of a pastor at the church, who reported it to leadership. Campbell was arrested and charged with sexual assault of a minor.
How did people view you? Oh, awful. It was never a matter of I didn't have that embrace from people to tell me it was okay.
Ultimately, she couldn't bring herself to testify, and the charges against Campbell were dismissed.
Give somebody a hug and tell them God loves them.
Campbell is now part of disgraced televangelist Jim Bakker's ministry, and for years he and his wife have run a summer camp named after themselves.
Now, summertime, whenever camp comes, that whole place is full of kids.
Jim Bakker did not reply to NBC News' request for comment. The Assemblies of God's Southern Missouri District said it was heartbroken and that in 1989, leadership acted upon the evidence presented to them regarding the minister. He was reported to law enforcement and is barred from ever again being credentialed with the church. As for the Campbells themselves,
we're in Missouri, headed to Camp Bell.
No response to our in-person inquiries.
Hello? Excuse me?
There's a man there again.
Emails or calls.
The number you dialed has been changed.
Despite years of setbacks, Carrie and 3 other women recently filed police reports against Campbell in Tulsa. They were told the statute of limitations expired.
I always wanted to find more victims. I still wanted to be able to have proof that he has a history.
If other survivors are out there, Carrie and others stand ready to help. Antonia Hilton, NBC News, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
We're back in a moment with Kim Kardashian's vivid testimony about the jewelry heist where she says she feared for her life, and video of how police deployed drones to de-escalate a dangerous situation. An elementary school in western Maryland was urgently evacuated via rescue boats during severe flooding and heavy rain. The water level rising to nearly the second floor of the school. Emergency crews are assisting with more evacuations as muddy brown floodwaters fill streets across the area. Kim Kardashian making an emotional appearance in a Paris courtroom today, testifying against the men accused of holding her at gunpoint and robbing nearly $10 million of her jewelry 9 years ago. Kardashian said she believed she was going to die. In court, she tearfully accepted the apology of one of the defendants. New Mexico authorities released drone video that captured a standoff between deputies and two young boys armed with a gun. When the 7- and 9-year-old don't comply with orders to drop the gun, officers use a non-lethal round to fire a warning shot. Within seconds, the drone's view enabled deputies to close in and disarm the boys without anyone getting hurt. When we come back, courtside with the WNBA's newest team and its historic new coach. Her inspiring message is next. There is good news tonight about a historic first for the WNBA and a head coach breaking barriers and inspiring a new generation of fans. Kathy Park is courtside.
When the Golden State Valkyries officially tip off their season, they'll be making history as a WNBA's first expansion team in over 15 years, now led by the league's first Asian American head coach, Natalie Nakase.
How are you channeling the spirit of a Valkyrie?
Women warrior?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm all about it. I've been fighting my whole life to get to certain spots.
Nakase is a third-generation Japanese American, a walk-on at UCLA who climbed the ranks, from the LA Clippers coaching bench to helping lead the Las Vegas Aces to back-to-back titles.
The reason I'm here is because of my dad. I was really lucky to have a parent that not only loved me unconditionally, but he pushed me beyond my limits.
That tough love became her fuel.
Doesn't matter how tall you are. I mean, I'm 5'1" and 3/4. I've always been the only girl. Walking into the NBA gym and all guys, it's the same.
No big deal.
No big deal.
Now her impact is reaching far beyond the court.
Do you feel like there is more responsibility now?
Yeah, you're impacting lives.
What does she look like?
She kind of looks like us.
It's phenomenal to see someone that looks like you and to say, yeah, I can do it.
A reflection of the times, with more fans believing in their own shot. Kathy Park, NBC News, San Francisco.
And that is nightly news for this Tuesday. Thank you for watching, everybody. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.